like the way you tied it into your work with other players, like off-grid players specifically. I really like to know how that is really panning out. Because there's also a lot of talk about, diversifying our source of power generation. So that's basically what I want to know. So if you're ready, sir, I think you're ready. But you just start by telling us, introducing yourself. You just have, I already know your name, but just again.
Okay, hello. Lawal Lawal.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Lawal Lawal. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer of Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, which is Kaduna Disco. We cover the 4 states of Kaduna, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara in the northwest of Nigeria.
Oh, perfect. So tell us about your the disco situation. I want to believe that the challenge is shared across the regions. What is the biggest challenge for discos, and how does it fit into the poor power supply that Nigerians are complaining about?
Good. So thank you very much. Kaduna Disco is a disco covering 155,000 square kilometers. Just for comparison's sake, that's about 70 times the size of Lagos. We cover a total of about 83 local governments across these 4 states I mentioned earlier. A total population size based on the 2016 census of about 20 million people, with about 2 million homes during the last housing census. We inherited a disco worth about $190 million as at 2014, which needed an investment of almost $1 billion up to 2020 for it to be profitable. Because of the sheer size of the investment needed, it was important for our investors and financiers to see a fair and straightforward analysis of how we were going to recover those. And we had that in agreement with the government to be able to provide power. Our total demand is somewhere around 800 to 900 megawatt, and we need to invest nothing less than 22 billion naira a year for at least 5 years to be able to bring down our losses to about 20% over the next 4 years. However, because of the myriad of issues, from tariff issues to generation supply issues to energy theft issues to now the prevailing security challenges we have across some of our states, it's been difficult to achieve this. It's been quite far from where we want to see. Our target is within the urban cities. About 80% of our population, connected population, we want to see a supply situation of nothing less than 22 hours a day. We are able to achieve that in very few communities within our current urban population, but there's a whole huge gap in terms of the peri-urban communities, in terms of businesses and industries. Kaduna is not mainly industrialized, not to talk of the other 3 states. Unfortunately for us, 3 of the 4 states that we cover are within the bottom 5 of the poverty index in Nigeria. So the share market or economic ability of people to actually purchase power is limited. And that's why even within our cry for a cost-reflective tariff, we are also mindful of the fact that power on its own is quite expensive, and we have been urging, and we would continue to support the government to bring down the actual cost of power to be low, so that at the end of the day, the total cost, including the distribution component, is affordable. Not, we can't say cheap, because it's a commodity, it must be paid for. But we want it in such a way that it's affordable for us to be able to invest and recover what we ought to recover within the sphere of the electricity investments.
Okay, this brings me to this question. During the course of your presentation, you said that you want in a situation where the end users will pay lower than any other customer. I don't know. Are they not the same customer? How do you think to make that a reality?
Okay, so there are two things. There are various categories of end users. The average cost is based on the average consumer type, which are the residential customers. They make up about 78% of our customer base. They are the end users. But also an industry is an end user. An office block, this building is an end user. But the average end user are the most prevalent customers, or the end users that we have in the network. Currently, the end user tariff, cost reflective, is about 70 plus number. My personal wish is that the total cost of electricity to be in the south of 30 naira. But that would all depend on all the inputs, from the cost of gas, to the cost of transmission, to the cost of distribution, to the cost of money. If you go to a bank today, the cost of loans are in the region of about 22% up to 26%. So if you're a big customer and you're able to squeeze out 18-20%, your cost of service is automatically probably 10% of that. So you're talking of about a third of the total cost of whatever commodity you're talking about. Now, at the end of the day, because we are dealing with average Nigerian, we want the cost to be affordable for us to be able to go out there and sell it. There's absolutely no way that you would be selling a strand of banana at 1,500 naira and you would want to sell 1,000 packs a day. But if it's down to 200 naira, you'll be able to sell more, and more people will be able to afford it. A lot of the inputs are not within our hands, and we will do everything to support government to bring it down. One of the things that helps bring down the cost of power is when you use naira to index a lot of the cost. One of the way you also reduce it is when the inflation rates are lower. Another is when the cost of borrowing is lower. Another is when the total generation is high. So if you have 10,000 megawatt divided by, let's say, 1 million customers, more people will be able to afford it. The unit cost comes down. But if you are trading the same 4,000 to the same 1 million customers, it makes it more expensive. So our hope is that when the generation also increases, we are currently doing southward of 5,000 megawatt. The plan was by now we should have been hitting somewhere around 13,500 thereabouts. So we would support the government to be able for them to also support us, to be able to supply the end consumer, and to also make viable business, sustainable business, because if we don't succeed, then the whole industry also collapses.
So you do it in such a way that you gain and the government gains at the same time. How do you do it?
How we do it is the government wants the end user for the population to have electricity, because electricity spurs growth. There is the single most important element into industrialization is energy. be it electricity, be it oil and gas, be it energy for homes. We want to support that. We are also a business, so we want to be profitable, we want to be sustainable. We also do not want to continue this every single time we are only called when the service is suboptimal. We want to ensure that we provide optimal service, the trippings to be low, the outages to be less, the quality itself to be useful to industries, because there's no need for you to be able to produce power that industries are not able to use in manufacturing. So we want to be sure that we do that. And an event like this is able to get us to discuss with manufacturers and product vendors to say, okay, we need this kind of products to be able to increase the reliability of our supply, to increase the quality of our supply, and the rest. So that's how we intend to achieve this.
Okay, sorry. I have a raft of questions, but sorry if I'm I'm not chronological, but just the burden. So I just want to understand, like, the discourse right now. What you mentioned pricing. My concern is because there's a lot of talk about reflective cost. There's also a talk about government subsidizing. What is the current situation? Are you saying that the discos are currently operating at a loss if you look at the price they are charging for their power, and maybe government is subsidizing? What exactly is happening, and how does that affect power supply when it comes from the discourse perspective?
Okay, so currently the government is subsidizing some elements of electricity. The subsidy has been growing less and less, has been going down, and we are at the last verge of government pulling out the subsidy. It has been doing that up to the tune of about $1 trillion over the last 10 years. Currently, they want to pull out by end of this year, I believe, and for it to be totally borne by the market. Now, having said that, the cost of electricity is still not fully cost reflective because there are a lot of other elements that are being managed by the government. That now also makes it difficult for financiers and investors to put in the required amount of investment for the sector to be blossoming. By the time that the subsidies go out, it gives an opportunity for the investors and financiers to now put in more money. It also gives an opportunity for government to concentrate in other places. It has a lot to fix in the transmission. It has a lot to fix within the gas sector, and that would help spur more supply from generation, because it will bring down all these system collapses that you are hearing. It will increase the pipeline for the transmission of more electricity. And when that happens, the average cost of electricity would go down. And if it goes down, consumers are able to consume more, and there is more sustainable supply within the network. Hopefully that can happen within the next 1 year or 1.5 years. So, and I am certain that you'll be able to see 7,000 megawatt within the next 1 year. 7,000 megawatt is almost double what we have now. So you can agree with me, 2 years ago the electricity supply has greatly increased, and then all of a sudden it has gone down. Sometimes you don't seem to remember when electricity is okay because it is expected to be okay, but it is when it has gone bad that everybody seems to understand that there's fire on the mountain, and we need to do as much as we can to ensure that it's sustainable.
Oh, wow. So interestingly, if I'm want to summarize, am I right to say that a major reason for the erratic power supply in Nigeria is because of lack of very, very important or needed investment?
Yes, yes. The investment needed is humongous, and it's huge. It's huge. The investment needed across all the subsectors of distribution, transmission, generation is huge. And we are talking of hundreds of millions of dollars every year, maybe up to $1 billion a year, for the industry to be able to move. In fact, I remember the 2010 report of AFDB. So it says $1 billion a year for the next 10 years. This is the 12th year of that report. I doubt if we are able to achieve that in any of those last 10 years or so. However, I know that a lot has gone in. Government itself has put in a lot of money. The private investors have put in a lot of money, and a lot more needs to be done for us to be able to achieve that. But achieving that is possible. Make no mistake about it. Achieving sustainable electricity supply in Nigeria is really possible. If we focus on the big picture, we focus on the right places, we'll be able to achieve that, I believe, in the next 2 years or so, at least within the major cities, to be able to see stable electricity supply 20 hours and above, and the limited number of interruptions and outages.
Oh, great. Just very short question. You said your goal is to supply 22 hours of power to in Kaduna, right?
Yes.
And just very few communities enjoy that right now. On the average, what's the current supply rate like? Just some.
Less than 16 hours a day.
Okay.
Across the whole
So-
disco,
Why is it
in
this?
average. Sorry?
Why are they not showcasing this on the internet?
Why are they not?
The discos.
Yes,
Why are they not on the internet?
we are.
You're on this net.
All of us are on our
Oh.
various websites. Kaduna Electric is on kadunaelectric.com. For example, Kano Disco is kedco.ng,
Okay.
AEDC, Ibadan, Yola, Eko, Benin, Ikeja, Port Harcourt, Ibadan. They're all on their various websites. But if you go to the ANED website, if you go to NAC website, you'd be able to see all our various websites. And all these informations are there in terms of our daily allocation, in terms of maybe the size of the disco, in terms of the number of customers, in terms of when outages will occur. We all publish. When we are having outages, we publish. We send it as tweets. We send it on our platforms on Facebook. We even send it in local languages. So yes, our customers, we try to get across. I'm in various WhatsApp groups with a lot of our customers. So yes, we are.
Before I forget, I was going to ask, what are the low-hanging fruit, especially since you mentioned that it's expected that by the end of the year, the government will hands off completely from subsidizing the sector. So for investors that want to come in, what are the low-hanging fruit if you want to advise potential investors?
Well, low-hanging fruits would be a lot of franchising opportunities, where communities that have suboptimal supply, you carve them out, you outsource, and investors are able to invest and recoup within the framework of the NERC franchising regulation. We have opportunities in vendor financing of metering systems, of network improvement. We have opportunities in vendorship and collection systems, online systems, all the people you see with the umbrella that make payment systems. We have all of those opportunities, and the various discos enter into various engagements with a lot of these potential investors, and I suggest and encourage people to actually reach out and see which areas in which they will be able to make headway with the various discourse.
Great. I think you said quite a lot. Is there anything you want to add or say?
Well, I call on customers and consumers to be extremely and excessively vigilant on their electricity infrastructure, because electricity is a common good. It's not a unit wise. You don't consume electricity on your own. It is a common service. It is very important that you are vigilant on vandalism, on your neighbor stealing electricity, on your neighbor having a risky connection. Because if you take the last one, somebody risking a connection, you don't know when your kid would go out and play and it affects him. Before the distribution company knows, it's important that you highlight that. It might take some time, so it is important to notify them and maybe even have it on record that neighbor is connecting illegally and so on. It's also important to notify when people are doing all the hanging, because apart from the fact that they are stealing your common good, they are also affecting the network in such a way that when it goes out, it might take you days before you get your supply restored. So it is my plea with the general public is to help in the vigilance of electricity theft, in what do you call it, vandalization of electricity infrastructure across the various communities. Thank you very much.
Just one final question. I missed it. Your partnership with off-grid companies and systems. Tell us what do you think about the role of off-grid and what kind of partnership do you see distribution companies like yours doing?
Kaduna Disco is in a flagship position in terms of its collaboration with third parties in off-grid and interconnected grids and third-party development of grids within its franchise area. We have been working with various partners over the last few years, majorly Connexa, which is an international company that is building several solutions across for our some of our customers, including rural villages with mini grid sites, but also major customers, industries, having signed agreements to supply 24-hour supply, 99.9% uptime, using also renewable as much as possible, solar and hydro, to be able to augment the grid supply when it's erratic. So building technologies, smart SCADA system, to be able to manage the electricity supply to these communities. We are running a pilot, 2 pilots in Kaduna, and we are trying to see how this can be blown across the whole company. But we also have other third parties that we are working with. We have another solution in Gauranamuda in Zamfara. We have another in Soba towards Plateau State. And we have another one in Sokoto and a few others. So we are open to working with third parties. There are usually some bureaucracies around it, but we ensure that we are trying to ensure that we go faster as much as possible. And when we get credible companies that are long-term focusing, because electricity is not something that you want to do in short-term business, we partner with them to be able to ensure that these communities get supply sustainable electricity across their various homes and businesses.
Good. Thank you so very much.
Thank you too.
Wow, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, my pleasure.
Bless.
All right, enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
Sorry, which press is this? VON. Okay. Hi, Mr. Omi.
Only you wear VIP stuff.
All of us carry
I was on stage.
Why you go come out now? Why you not a VIP? Please don't make yourself like us.
How far? I know I'm one of you that will be.
The man says he wants to remove his hair.
No, I'm waiting.
How far?
You will still be identified. We're just talking disco, and it shows up.
It shows good too. Not my own. I don't do this business. I should get out.
They have a connection already. Between all your intelligences.
Yeah, you guys are fully into video connection.
Yes. It connects, one, we are a shareholder. Okay. But secondly, we are also, we've partnered and they are building their major pilots in Kaduna.